Welcome to another episode of SportsVibe. I'm Arnav Sarkar here with Jitesh Krishnan. Episode 55. It's a big one because the NBA Finals have finished. Stanley Cup Finals kind of on their back half now, although the Oilers are certainly making an interesting comeback after going down 3-2. So Game 6 tomorrow on Friday, the 21st. Should be a good one. See if the Oilers can drag this one back to Miami or Southern Florida for Game 7. But I mean, in the NBA, the Boston Celtics are champions. I don't think that's really such a big surprise, to be honest, but a pretty dominating 4-1 series win against the best in the West, the Mavs. I mean, this whole playoffs, I mean, they kind of coasted, but I mean, some teams did give them trouble, like the Pacers. That was definitely a lot tougher than it looked.
I mean, I don't understand the whole they coasted through the playoffs argument. Duh. They got 64 wins in the
Yeah,
regular
for a
season. What
reason.
the hell are you
For a
expecting?
reason.
It's the dumbest argument of all time. They're like, what? People are suddenly shocked that a number one seed in the entire NBA, they're able to dispose of these playoff teams like in 4 or 5 games. Is that supposed to be a shock? I don't think so. I mean, and this entire year the media has just been hate the Celtics, hate the Celtics, hate the Celtics, hate the Celtics. Especially the majority of the platoons of idiots on ESPN. I mean, especially a numbskull like Udonis Haslam. I mean, he has hatred for the Celtics in his heart, obviously, because he's only been the bitter rivals of them for the last 15 years. Saying like he's got the Mavs, and then Stephen A. Smith, Mavs, the entire media. Like the Celtics were fighting wars not only with, I mean, they weren't fighting wars amongst themselves because the Celtics demonstrated selflessness throughout this entire season, but they were fighting a war with the media essentially. So because even though the Celtics were, I mean, you saw the stat. Even though the Celtics were majorly favored for the NBA Finals in terms of the betting apps and everything, 89% of the bets still went on the Mavs. Why? Because people hate. Because well, it's not just people hate the Celtics. People just hate Boston sports in general. But
Yeah.
and they decide to believe in that foolish ambition that the Mavericks could have came back after the game four whooping. I mean,
Why people keep doing that because it's just like, oh yeah, they're totally gonna come
and
back and
also I got a chuckle out of the game four victory for the Mavericks because you saw the end of the game four. They were celebrating by throwing down streamers and confetti and everything. Yeah, you
they
saw
were
the end
in
of the game.
Dallas. Oh no, I
Yeah,
think I probably turned it off or
no,
something.
that
Missed
that's the
that.
most. That's got to be one of the most ridiculous things
But
I've
we
ever
won a
seen.
finals game, but I mean they
Yeah,
beat them so badly. Like you might think they got some life out of it, but I mean I don't know. We've seen this like in it reminds me of like the second round, like when the Knicks and Pacers were trading blowouts, or the Wolves and Nuggets were trading blowouts. It kind of felt like one of
well,
those.
this wasn't a trade of blowouts.
It was
Dallas
just
just
one.
Dallas just got one by proxy.
Yeah, I mean, I guess sometimes people have an off night, and that's just what happened. And the Mavs, they took advantage of it. I guess. I guess the usual 29 for Luca and 21 for Kyrie, and the Celtics just really had an off night. No one really got
I mean,
going. But then Game 5, they bounced back. A pretty
the
comfortable wire-to-wire victory, right?
the
In Game
yeah
5.
the
So
great thing about the Celtics final is that there's a few options for who could have been Finals MVP aside from Jaylen Brown, and I mean I still think Jaylen Brown fully deserved
I
it.
think he deserved it too.
Yeah, I mean of course the first person people will bring up is JT, Jason Tatum, set, and then quality options for Finals MVP after that would be Drew Holiday, Derek White, and I'd like to give a personal shout out to Kyrie Irving for helping the Celtics get to 3 victories
I love him.
in the finals. I mean, Kyrie Irving said when he was traded to Boston in 2017, his goal is to bring the Celtics a championship. Congrats, buddy! Took you 7 years to do it, but better late than never.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, of course, JT he put up the most points and rebounds in the throughout the series. But I mean, I don't think like necessarily that tells the entire story of who deserves Finals MVP. I mean, to me, I think it's safe to say this throughout basketball. Well, really, if you've watched the Celtics for at least 5 games this entire season, which seems like it seems like the entire panel of ESPN did not bother to do so, and Skip Bayless, Colin Cowherd, all those people. What you're able to see is that Brown has, and I say this for good reason because Brown seems to be the number one guy because he's like, well, aside from Al Horford, who is here in 2016, Brown has been here the longest with the Celtics. Like he's the one who's like more dependable and who's looked as a voice of leadership for the locker room. So like, and you're able to see it in his play. Like he's consistent in his approach, consistently aggressive attacking, consistently like grabbing rebounds, consistently being a strong defender and annoying people like Luka Doncic whenever they switch. So, and JT, I mean, I think Tatum's ceiling is higher than Jaylen Brown, but Jaylen Brown is the more consistent player because Tatum is the one who's more prone to like having these games where he goes off or he does not go off. Jaylen Brown is more consistent with like for example, like a 26-6, whereas
Yeah,
Tatum can vary from like a 15-5-6 to a 45-7-8, something like that. Like it's how do I say? It's not exactly Jekyll and Hyde, but it streaky might be the right word. Yeah, streaky, I guess. But Brown is more consistent in his play, so ultimately, I think Jaylen Brown getting the Finals MVP definitely deserved it. And of course, the Celtics they had their own individual MVPs throughout each game. Like game one, without a doubt, KP was the MVP. Kristaps Porzingis. Game two, without a doubt, was a Drew Holiday masterpiece. That was a
yeah,
masterpiece
it
of a game.
was great. Both
Yeah.
ends.
Game three, that one becomes a little bit more difficult, but like to say, but even then, you could. That's probably a toss up between Brown and Tatum,
Right.
and a little bit of Derek White because he came in pretty clutch within the last 5 minutes or so of Game Three. Game four, who cares?
Eh,
That's a whatever game. Game five, everyone was stepping up. JT had his
he had
probably
his best game, I think,
you
series, or maybe
no,
game three, but
I mean
they beat them by 31.
you could argue he had his best game in the playoffs potentially. You could argue. I mean,
Yeah,
of course,
31, 11, and 8. It's like, it's pretty solid.
not pretty solid. Like
It's
really,
almost a triple double with 30
really,
points. Yeah.
really damn good for a finals closeout.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, and Derek White came in a clutch. But it's like if there's one player who I'm truly happy that won their NBA championship, it's old man Al Horford. 17 years in the league, and his first year of a playoff experience was going against the last Boston Celtics champions, the 2008 team, where they won 66 games, and they faced Horford's Atlanta Hawks in the first round. And of course, the Celtics that year were famous for being able to win at home, and infamous for not being able to win on the road until it really mattered. So Al Horford and the Hawks really pushed those Boston Celtics, that '08 Celtics team to truly like capture their best selves in
Mm-hmm.
the most intense moments. And I think that really resonated with Horford when he chose to sign with the Celtics in 16. And of course, he left after after the end of the 18-19 season, signed with Philadelphia, and he caused them even more chaos. So thanks, Al Horford. Then got traded to Oklahoma, and then after the 2021 first round exit, he got shipped back to Boston in exchange for Kemba Walker. And he's been a rock, and he's been the rock for the Boston Celtics since then. Always like a dependable guy in the leadership, and you could see how greatly um, the players value his leadership and overall. So I'm really happy Al Horford finally got his first NBA championship. He absolutely deserved it.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, he's been, consistent veteran for quite some time. I mean, just the things he does, and
Crazy,
you know,
crazy thing is, Coach Missoula, he's younger than Horford
right?
by 3 years. Ma-
Yeah, that's nuts. Yeah, Horford's been in the league a long time, and he's just become like a dependable a veteran. Also now like more like a stretch five option as well. But I mean, no, I'm really happy to see him win a championship. Someone who definitely deserves it. I mean, yeah. As for everything else, I mean, like you said, Celtics winning in five. I do think Jaylen Brown deserved the MVP in this series. I mean, you could probably argue which one you think's better between Tatum and Brown. I think in this series, Jaylen Brown was, like you said, more consistent. Like I feel like Jason Tatum is like more streaky in general. Like he
yeah,
could
I
put
mean,
up 40 or 10, and
yeah,
then
but
Brown
like,
maybe get 26 and 6 a night.
yeah,
And I think that's what he did in this series, a bit more than that even.
yeah, but
So
like I said, I forget. It might have been last week, where I said I don't care if Tatum puts up 10 or if he puts up 50 because like he's still getting his teammates involved
exactly.
in terms of dishing out the ball. And then you see when he's constantly getting double or triple team, he always well usually like if we were to watch Tatum's game from a few years ago, especially in I'd say the 2022 season, 21 to 22 season, I should say. If he's getting double or triple teamed, he'd take more of the influence to drive the ball himself and just go for the shot. Whereas you can see here, like here's where you see the maturity truly develop of Jason Tatum, because he was able to like now when he's getting double or triple team, when he's getting swarmed by Luca, Gafford, and Derek Jones Jr. or whatever, instead instead of like his primary option being a score, he looks to pass now. He gets his teammates involved, and then when if his teammates were to miss, he's in the paint to fight for the rebound alongside Al Horford. So Jason Tatum's game, while it may not have shown on the stat sheet in terms of points scored, because points wise, it didn't exactly look like he had a great game, but he was there to help still chip out for his team. So I really like that development about Tatum. I didn't care that he only scored that, and it's like, oh, he only scored 18 points, 6 of 22 shooting, and whatever. It's almost like you're only paying attention to the box score, and you're not paying attention to the game itself. Jason Tatum's impact in Game Two was profound, profound. It can't be stated enough. He helped. He's a catalyst for that game itself. It can't be overstated.
Yeah, no, I agree. He did so much more than just score the basket. I mean, just being a playmaker for his teammates, getting them, the ball, and still like not. I mean, still scoring a decent amount. It's not like he didn't score anything. I mean, he still had 10, 20, 30 points, and depending on the game. So I mean, definitely contributed and got his teammates open. Allowed guys like Jaylen Brown and Drew Holiday and so many of the other guys who had bigger scoring performances to really, stand out. And yeah, like you said, it was a different game. I mean, a different like MP in each game. Like obviously Porzingis coming back and making his immediate impact with his size, his ability to defend the rim and score at the rim at will, and then Drew Holiday, the masterclass in game two that he had with 26 and 11, an excellent defense, and then game three, Jaylen Brown and Tatum both went off, and that was another close
Yeah,
effort there by the Mavs to
and
try to
there
come
and
back.
there's
And then
and
game
there's
five close out Jason Tatum. So
and
yeah,
there's also small pivotal moments that happen throughout the series that will go overlooked by most NBA fans, but definitely not by the Boston Celtics. I want to highlight two such things. First thing is, like we know after game two, well, we know after game one, Porzingis was coming back from that calf strain, and where he was absolutely dominant in terms of his 3 point shooting efficiency, his blocking. Oh my goodness, that was a block party right there. And then game two, of course, like he became bit slow after the whatever the hell that injury was, that dislocation of the something, whatever it is.
right.
And he sat out for game three. Of course, the Boston Celtics were leaning on Al Horford to get the job done, and it's sometimes Tatum to be the center up front. So Celtics would adopt the small ball lineup. But here's a contribution I'd like to highlight, which will probably be go unnoticed by a couple other people. And really, we could say this the first instance of this happening was especially in the Eastern Conference Finals when O'Shea Brissett would step up in place of Al Horford and the injured Porzingis, and he'd play huge contributing minutes for the Celtics and be an involvement mainly more in the defense presence. But he's still attacking the rim and still dishing out to get the players involved and grabbing the defensive boards. And I'd say that impact was probably best on display in games 3 and 4 of the series in Indiana. Of course, game 3 was the Al Horford show where he hit 7 3-pointers and got 23 points in total. And then, of course, another game 3 here was with Xavier Tillman at the 5 position for moments of the game, where and you're able to see he hit the 3. Like, I was not expecting that, but it's like he hit the 3 in the critical moments, and he was still driving to the rim and everything. So, and that's where I think the series was truly stolen in Dallas, because I said the Celtics just need to get 1 out of 2 in Dallas, and they'll be just fine. But if there is no one there to step up, like in place of like Al Horford, who is already playing bench minutes to start the regular season, so he was not. You could potentially argue wasn't playing the same amount of minutes as he was doing the previous years, and maybe that might have taken a toll on how. I mean, maybe not taking a toll, but it's like maybe it would have like prevented him from maximizing how many minutes he can play like during a game or something like that. If Xavier Tillman wasn't there to step up, Dallas could have potentially tied the series at 2, and we'd have a completely new ball game. So Xavier Tillman was able to step up big time for the Celtics to steal Game 3, and of course, this had. I mean, well, Peyton Pritchard's had a knack for doing this throughout the playoffs, and really whenever his numbers called upon. But Game 5, in my opinion, was truly sealed. Like, the Mavericks had absolutely no chance to win as soon as he hit the half court buzzer. That was where
Oh yeah.
that was where all hope was drained from the Dallas Mavericks, because they already saw him do it once.
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding me? Like, this had to happen again.
Yeah.
Peyton Pritchard took the Mavericks' souls at the end of the first half on Game 5, and I will say, like, it seemed like all the stars were aligning for the Boston Celtics to win Game 5 at their home at TD Garden, because the last time they won the NBA championship was at TD Garden on June 17th, 2008, and Game 5 was won June 17th, 2024. And also, fun fact, Boston's area code is 617.
617. I did see all of that. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, so it
Yeah.
only seemed like destiny, I guess. And Bob Cousy
Right.
had the famous quote where he's like saying, "I'm 95 years old. I have 1 foot in the grave. I just want to see the Celtics host up one more banner." Well, Bob, you got your wish. Mike Gorman, who retired after the first round, calling the Heat Celtics series. He's been the Boston Celtics play-by-play announcer for, I think, around 45 years. He got to see the Celtics host one more championship, and of course, I'd like to think that the effort of the Celtics was to honor like their past legends, like
Yeah.
Bill Walton, Tommy Heinsohn, Bill Russell, especially John Havlicek,
Mhm.
Casey Jones, Sam Jones. So
The
and
legacy. Yeah. It's nice that they won like banner 18 on their home floor and historic, on their, parquet court in Boston. I feel like it did it much more justice than it would have in Dallas. I mean, NBA championships, NBA championship, but there's just
exactly.
something about
The,
that place, you know what I
the,
mean? It's like Boston and LA, right? So it's
no,
just
no. I mean,
pulling out.
forget
Yeah.
about that. Forget about that. There's no greater allure to winning a championship on your home turf. I mean,
Exactly.
the only place where it's, well, not exactly impossible, but highly unlikely
Super Bowl.
is in the NFL. But it's like, we had back-to-back teams win it in their homes: the Tampa Bay
That's
Buccaneers
true.
and the Los Angeles Rams in succeeding years. I mean,
Yeah.
that's going to be a real rarity because prior to that, prior to that, no team has ever played in their home stadium for the Super Bowl. I think the team that came closest was the Saints, but I think the Superdome was supposed to be was either the previous year they went to the Super Bowl in 2010 or it was the following year. I forget which one, but yeah. So the Saints have probably been the closest team because it seems like the Super Bowl is hosted in the Superdome like every 5 years, uh, and of course Miami will always get a pick for hosting the
Yeah.
Super Bowl. But I forget who's hosting it this year. Is it no wait? Vegas was this
Oh,
past
the
Super Bowl.
past. Yeah.
Who's hosting it this year again? Do you know?
Let me see.
It's either New Orleans
I
this
think
year
New
or next year.
Orleans.
It's
Yeah,
this year or next year.
New Orleans 2025. Yeah.
Oh well, the Saints are making it anyways, so
Eh,
that shouldn't be a problem.
yeah.
But still, like there's no greater accomplishment than winning a championship on your home turf, without any doubt. So, as you said before, a chip is a chip, regardless if you win on. I mean, like it feels great to win on the road, especially probably against your bitter rivals. I mean, the
Mhm.
Celtics and Mavericks are not bitter rivals,
No.
but they share a bitter rival in the Miami Heat. And
Yeah, that's true.
yeah, but but yeah, so yeah, nothing greater than winning it all in front of your home fans. Like there's nothing to it. Like I mean, the last time, I mean, you're like, for example, like you watch the World Series. Like, I mean, the Rangers won it last year in Arizona. Previous year, Houston won it in Houston. So, I mean, you're able to see the contrast of energy because, like with the Rangers winning it, and they were the road warriors throughout the entire playoffs last year. Of course, I don't imagine Diamondbacks fans would be celebrating that the Rangers won the World Series, and but it's like still you're able to still hear like Rangers fans in the crowd like cheering and everything, but there's nothing like winning it at home. Like the Houston Astros can tell you that from 22. Like the Vegas Golden Knights from last year, they won
Yeah.
it in front of their home fans. What else? What else? Oh yeah, the Denver Nuggets last year.
Yeah,
Like
they won on their home floor.
yeah, there's nothing like winning a championship on your home court. There's nothing like it.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, I guess a few more points before we shift over to hockey. I mean, yeah, as you said, the Mavs did have some opportunities. Game two, I think, was a really
No,
big one. That was a swing game. Every time
they
game
had
12,
their chances to
yeah,
take game two because it
especially
was
that
original.
block at the end. That's where really like they had a really good chance to cut it to basically like a 3-point game, or was it already a 3-point game?
No.
Or I
It
think
was
no, they could
it
have cut it to a 3-point game, but then they got blocked, and then the Celtics like opened it up one final
game
time.
game three. The Mavericks had it slip through their fingers too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they came back from down 20, and the Celtics were making
21,
everything, suddenly nothing, and then the Mavs were down by 3. They just couldn't close the deal. So
and
I
then
mean, that was their
and
game to
then
win. Kyrie was like on fire. Luca
well,
fell down, unfortunately, but yeah,
the turning point, another turning point, what caused the Mavericks there was like Kyrie, like late in the game, decides to shoot like a running three where he's jumping over to the side and shoots like that. I mean, I know Kyrie can be a good 3-point shooter at moments, but
right.
in that moment when you're down one or down two, I forget which one, it's probably best, and with the time ticking, for you to tie or take the lead, it's probably best if you have like maybe more of a stable shot. But hey, what do I know? I don't play professional basketball. Um, but yeah, so and you could see like another big difference was that the Boston Celtics bench, I think was oh yeah, and another thing the media was trying to lie to you about was that the Mavericks were deeper on their bench. Like I'm not saying that the Mavs don't have a deep bench, but you can't beat the Boston Celtics bench. Like Kristaps Porzingis was coming off the bench. You, you can't beat that. You can't.
Right. No, yeah, I agree. Yeah. Now the Celtics just had like they just have so many different options that can beat you, and like all their starting five, they could score, they could shoot, they could defend, and then you got Kristaps Porzingis stretching the floor. I mean, it's just like it's a lot. I mean, I think without him, maybe the Mavs might have had a chance to, you know, make this at least competitive, maybe steal a few games, and I think it would have been pretty interesting. But I mean, with him, I think it was just a bit much, especially when like you had so many other players like Derek White and Jaylen Brown and Drew Holiday, like a different person stepping up. You just like you can only guard so many guys at one time, and like if they're all going to beat you, I mean that's what makes them so good. Like we've seen it all year. I mean they really set up the team really well, and yeah, I mean I think the whole trade with that really propelled them with Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum setting up that dynamic duo.
Yeah,
Their
Billy.
addition getting Porzingis. I mean,
Yeah,
Drew Holiday, just some smart decisions to really put together a good starting five, get some bench pieces in there.
yeah.
Um,
The foundations of this was like we'll transition to hockey after this, but it's like the
mhm,
foundations for this championship the Boston Celtics had was laid 10 years ago with the great Billy King organizing the KG Pearson Jason Terry trade to the Brooklyn
right,
Nets, and then the Brooklyn Nets fumbled, to say the least. Those draft picks turned into Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, then Isaiah Thomas. He came with that culture starter. Then Al Horford was here. Then there's that whole group of guys right there, and of course the one guy who really can't be overstated. Well, I mean he he helped organize like the Celtics for who they are right now. Danny Ainge, who built most of this team, and then in 21 when he left for I believe the Jazz, if I remember correctly, Brad Stevens took up the president's role, and he went up from coach to to the president role, and then he became the GM, and it was like handing the keys down from last championship creator to current championship creator, from Ainge to Stevens, and really just it took time, but it allowed the Celtics to blossom into what they can be.
right.
Finally,
Yeah, well, it did take a while. There were some roadblocks, but they've always been like in the conversation. I mean, like at least last few years. Like, I mean, obviously losing to Golden State, and then last year, they were close losing to Miami after coming back from 3-0. So like, I mean, they were always like in the mix. But I guess this year they just really they took it up a notch, even from last season, and they really became the team to beat. And no one really stood much of a chance, to be honest. I mean, like, so I mean, but yeah, that's a testament to their domination. And yeah, I mean, I don't think people are really betting. Yeah, I guess people are betting on them because I mean, against them because they hate them. Also, because the Celtics were so overwhelming favorites, they wouldn't have made a ton of money on
yeah.
betting on Boston. I mean, it makes sense. And but yeah, I guess. By the way, did you like see Jason Tatum's like the post game stuff? That was so funny how he was just copying like everyone else,
Oh,
like Steph and KG, and then even like
who
Kanye, he
who
dropped that
who
line.
cares?
But
Who
it's his
cares?
celebration. I don't know. I just feel like it's kind of corny when he does that. But I feel like the moment with this, like
Oh,
that was
who
like
I
that was organic, and that was actually a really cool moment. Like with
I
doing
don't
something
care.
like that.
I don't care if he's copying other people because you just won a championship. You just got a giant monkey off your back for 7 years.
That's true. You could do what
Do it.
you could do what you want.
Yeah, I don't care.
All right. Well, I mean, that's fine, I guess. Yeah, I just thought it was interesting. But yeah, I mean, once you win a championship, it is a big weight off his shoulders, obviously, for sure. So, yeah, I mean, with that, I guess, I guess we could shift over to the Stanley Cup. Yeah, I mean, Florida, Edmonton.
Game five was freaking awesome. Oh wait, we didn't even talk about Game Four. That was just a scoring barrage for the Oilers.
Oh my
They made
goodness.
they made Bobrovsky look human. Well,
Yeah,
actually, no. They made Bobrovsky look like an Oilers goaltender. And Stuart Skinner looked like Sergei Bobrovsky.
yeah.
In kind of a reverse of parallels. And lo and behold, would you believe it? Darnell Nurse did something positive for the Oilers in Game 4. I didn't think I'd live to see the day. But game 5, great game. Connor Brown starts off the Oilers scoring barrage with a shorthanded goal. Obviously, the Panthers power play. The Panthers power play has been awful, and the Edmonton Oilers penalty kill has been stellar. Like if you were saying that going into the Stanley Cup Finals, Florida's power play was pretty good, but Edmonton at that point had killed off. I think going into the finals, it was like 25 or 26 like straight penalties. Like that's amazing. Like their penalty kill is arguably just as lethal as an Edmonton power play. Like you don't really see that, especially the Oilers. Like the last couple of years, they're not known for their defensive prowess or prowess, whatever. They're definitely not known for their defense. They're known for just basically being, I don't know, just an M16, the equivalent of an M16. But yeah, so the Oilers defense has stepped up remarkably over the last 2 years, and I give most of the credit on the defense to Matthias Ekholm. He's been without a doubt, in my opinion, the Oilers' best defenseman. But it's not even just that. Like your defenseman can only do so much, but it says something when the Oilers' penalty kill has been on a massive tear.
Yeah,
I
they've been
think that
great. Yeah.
yeah I think they've only like within like the last like throughout this entire playoffs, like I think they've only let in one or two power play goals, which is just amazing.
Yeah,
Uh,
very long streak without allowing one.
yeah, and they've made the Panthers power play look human. Like the Panther, like it seems like whenever the Panthers go in the power play, that's an advantage for the Oilers. Normally, in normal hockey lingo, whenever your team goes on the power play, it's an advantage for you and a disadvantage for the other team. But somehow it seems to be working in favor of the Oilers. And so Connor Brown gets the party started, and then Edmonton just keeps pouring it on. It becomes 3-0 with Connor McDavid getting a ridiculous goal to make it 3 zip. Wait, I'm trying to remember. Wait, do you remember who made it 2 zip? I forget the exact sequence. Let me search it up. All right, but I guess in the meantime, let's see. Wait, let me see if I could figure out who scored. Because I don't remember off the top of my head for some reason. Oh yeah, Bouchard was there just assisting everything. Wait. Oh, Zach Hyman. Zach Hyman. He scored the second goal off a Bouchard drive, and in typical Zach Hyman fashion, he gets the tip and assist, make it 2 zip off a Bouchard bomb. Then 3 zip. Connor McDavid gets a ridiculous goal. Then
Yeah.
then a sloppy play in the Oilers zone. Matthew Tkachuk intercepts the puck, puts it in 3-1, and the Panthers have life. See, the thing is, with both of these teams, a 3-0 lead. I'm talking about in the game. You don't even not even the series just yet. Although Florida might be sweating bullets right now. A 3-0 lead against the Oilers or a 3-0 lead against the Panthers is not safe. I think both teams have learned that now because
Yeah.
we will see how lethal both these teams can be. They turn into John Wick within 5 seconds sometimes. So yeah. So then Matthew Tkachuk puts it in 4-1. I mean 3-1. Corey Perry of all people makes it 4-1. I mean that's what happens when McDavid is getting 4 defenders all to himself. And then Corey Perry's just in the open land, just skating around and puts in a goal. And 14 seconds later, the Panthers score. It was Evan Rodriguez who has really come alive this finals. And then it's 4-2 going into the third period. And here's where the fun really starts. because we see a lot of aggressive forechecking and some fairly aggressive defense from both teams. They're alternating. And then a critical moment was the 4x4 where Matthew Tkachuk was called for embellishment. I mean, come on, that was a flop. That if that had been a Panthers power play, I would have just been laughing hysterically. But so that was a pretty big turning point. But then eventually, the Panthers make it 4-3 with Oliver Ekman-Larsson getting the goal. And suddenly, I'm just like thinking, "Oh God damn it, the Oilers are gonna blow it," but they didn't. They held strong. And wow, what a sequence! That final 60 seconds of the game.
Yeah.
What an amazing! I mean, you know me. I despise Matthew Tkachuk on all levels. You know me, but I cannot lie. Remarkable effort from Matthew Tkachuk on. Well, first thing is Florida stopped 2 empty net goals. The first one where I believe Nugent Hopkins flips the puck in, and who flips the puck in, and Matthias is either Janmark or Ekholm. I think it was Janmark. He was just like inches away from tapping the puck in because the puck hit the post, and then his stick just barely went over the puck.
Yeah.
And so Florida got lucky right there.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they were chasing again, and then the next time the puck got dumped in, Matthew Tkachuk went racing after it. And like I mentioned, I despise Matthew Tkachuk, but I cannot lie. That defensive effort right there.
That was a superhuman play. I mean, like to just dive and slide and get the stick just to get the puck just away from the goal, like
barely. And then his soul got stolen by the Grim Reaper, Connor McDavid, getting his second goal, ices the game, and he drags the Panthers back to Alberta as he promised at the end of Game 4. Connor McDavid he killed the Panthers' dreams right there. Now, hockey gods, please give us Game 7. Please.
I know, we need a Game 7. Yeah.
No, forget that. We need a Game 7 OT thriller. A fight to the death between the gladiators. We need a fight to the death. I mean, I think I don't even know if we've even counting the old days, like 80, 90, 100 years ago, I don't even know if there's ever been a Game 7 Stanley Cup Finals in OT, I should say. Obviously, there's been numerous Game 7s in the Stanley Cup Finals, but it's like, I don't think that there's ever been an OT in the Stanley Cup Finals for Game 7. I could be wrong, but I don't think that's ever been the case. But yeah, that would be a thrill. I mean, I think with the Oilers crowd, after they've seen their team basically put up a stinker for the first 2 games, and then showing fight too little, too late at the end of Game 3. I think Oilers fans are feeling good about the Panthers. I mean, about the Panthers. What the hell am I talking about? About their team going into Game 4. Then they saw them just turn into an AK-47 in Game 4, and then Game 5 they saw the Oilers steal the victory on home ice on the Panthers ice, and I think the Alberta crowd, well, minus Calgary, of course, will be rocking. The Oilers crowd will be loud. They will be noisy. They will be intimidating. They'll be annoying for the Panthers to deal with. They're not. I don't think it's going to be an easy contest for Florida if they do win Game 6 in Alberta. It's definitely not going to be easy if they pull it off. But if Edmonton gets a Game 7, holy crap, are we in for a treat? Holy crap! And I think right now, I think it's safe to say at the end of Game 5, there's been serious discussion about the potential Conn Smythe winners from both teams. I mean, Oh yeah, and it should also be noted that Connor McDavid he broke a Gretzky record, and yeah, that's kind of hard to do, but it's Connor McDavid, so kind of shouldn't be surprised at the same time. For most points achieved in a playoff run, Connor McDavid has 42. Wayne Gretzky in one of his years had 41. But I think the all-time record is having like 47 or 40, like having 48 points in a playoff series. I think that was Gretzky's 85 run. It might be possible should the Oilers pull it off across these two games that McDavid surpasses that. It is entirely possible, but there's been a lot of discussion. I don't know if you've been on hockey Twitter recently about Connor McDavid still getting the Conn Smythe even if the Edmonton Oilers lose the Stanley Cup. Have you seen that discussion or no? What are,
Um, I don't know. I'm not really like super into that, but yeah, I don't think I've really seen that. But that definitely makes sense. It's like basically like people are saying like Luka like might win the Finals MVP, like if even if the Mavs lost. But Jaylen Brown also had like a really good series where I don't think you could do that.
yeah,
But I guess I could see the same thing. I mean, he's been playing like really well,
he,
especially if he like brings them really like back into the series, and if he drags them to a win, then definitely.
yeah.
Even if it gets to Game 7, I could definitely see it if he.
He has been a man possessed, but if the Oilers are to pull off the improbable, there needs to be one man who needs to wake up, and I'm talking to you, number 29, Leon Draisaitl.
Yeah.
Wake the hell up! I don't even know if Draisaitl has registered a point of the series. Has he? Let me see. Leon Draisaitl. I genuinely don't know if he's registered a point in the series. Let me see. Uh, doesn't look like. Let's see. That's game one, game two, game three, game four. Yeah, he hasn't. No, no, he has 2 points against the Panthers from game four. But still, he needs to wake up. Like the Oilers need you. Like, come on, man, wake up. You were three of your fellow draftees, Ekblad, Sam Bennett, and sorry, my throat's getting a bit dry, but it's like Sam Reinhart, Aaron Ekblad, and Sam Bennett. They've all showed up in this series. Your fellow draft buddies from 2014. You need to show up too, Leon. It's about damn time. So, like as mentioned, there's there's been discussion about Connor McDavid probably about potentially getting Conn Smythe, even if the Oilers lose, and he'd be the first person since Jean Sebastian Guerre from the Anaheim Ducks in 2003 to win the Conn Smythe as part of the losing team, and I think he'd be the sixth player overall in NHL history. Should that be possible? I mean, I don't know how you feel about this. I don't think players on the losing team of any kind should get any uh, should get any MVP consideration whatsoever. Um, I mean, it might be a hot take because I don't know because there's always a most valuable player on a winning team. The most valuable player does not necessarily have to be the guy who's dominated the most on the losing squad. That's what I think. But that's what I think. But it's like I think going back to the discussion for Conn Smythe, without a doubt, if the Oilers win it, McDavid will most likely be a unanimous decision. But I think I think a sneaky option for the guy who could get the Conn Smythe for the Oilers potentially it would be it would be Evan Bouchard because he's put up a 30-point series. He's put up over 30 points throughout the Stanley Cup Finals run for the Oilers too. He's been a major part of their defense, and he's been a catalyst for getting the offense involved, especially Zach Hyman. So he'd be a sneaky pick for the Conn Smythe, but you're competing against Connor McDavid. You're probably not going to get the Conn Smythe. As for the Panthers, well, I still think Bobrovsky is probably the betting option. But these last two goaltending performances, maybe that might not necessarily be the case. But I don't think Kachuk has done enough in the series to justify a Conn Smythe to win. Should the Panthers win it, because he's had one goal in the last 9 games. I mean, of course, the Conn Smythe is the playoff MVP, not the Stanley Cup Finals MVP. So there's two completely different things to remember there. I also think like some other good recipients for the Panthers, should they win it, would include Reinhart or Logan or Brandon Montour in their from their defense, and yeah, I think those are good picks too, aside from Bobrovsky. What
Yeah,
are
no, yeah, I could definitely see all those options. Yeah, Montour or Bobrovsky or Reinhardt, anyone from the defense. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it depends on what happens in the last few games for sure. I don't know. Do you think like Kachuk would like have a chance at that, or like not really?
he would need to come alive for Game 6 or Game 7 or
That's
really
true. Yeah, he's
both.
had like a
I,
relatively
no,
quiet
he
series as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's been a different season because last year he was a a monster for scoring the goals. This year he's dishing out more of the assists.
Yeah.
Like it's very apparent on how he's changed his game, but that's not saying that he can't come alive at the moments when it's needed. Because Kachuk single handedly brought the Panthers back in Game 5, single handedly.
Right.
Sing like with the score, with the goal, then with how aggressive he was being in the Oilers zone,
Hmm.
getting his pesky teammates involved and everything. Like,
Yeah.
and of course, still continuing to try and fight people, even though he's a fake tough guy. Um, like Kachuk single handedly brought the Panthers back in Game 5. So he'd need to have like a truly stellar performance to maybe steal the Conn Smythe from Bobrovsky in Game 6 or Game 7. I mean, I'd prefer if they didn't win either game, obviously, but anything can happen.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I guess just to wrap up the hockey talk. So we're going to Edmonton for Game 6. I guess if you had to predict who wins the series and then how many games, like what
I
would
will
you
still
predict?
even if I'm dead wrong, I will still say Edmonton in 7 because
Ooh, all time.
I'm biased, and 2 I'm biased, and 3 I hate the Panthers, and 4 I want Connor McDavid to finally win a Stanley Cup.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, it'd be nice. I didn't really think like they really had too much of a chance after Florida won 3 games, but it seems like the Oilers have gotten better in every like
I
even
mean,
Game 3 is like 4-3, and
if
then
the,
the Oilers really turned it on lately.
if
So
there's one sport if there's one sport where seemingly coming back down from 3-0 is not as daunting as the other leagues,
it's
it's the
hockey.
NHL.
It's definitely the
You've
NHL.
seen it on a more consistent, quote unquote, basis in hockey than with other sports. Basketball, and no one's come down from 3-0, although it's
Right.
nearly been pulled off a couple times.
Yeah.
Of course, in baseball, the only time it's happened was 2004 Yankees Red Sox.
Right.
And then hockey has had a lot of that. There's been a few reverse sweeps, a lot of 3-0s going to Game 7s. That's happened,
Yeah.
but so it's more probable for it to happen in hockey,
Hmm.
simply because hockey on a player by player basis is probably the hardest sport to play, aside from aside from probably football.
Yeah, there's just a lot of variables involved. There's skating and dribbling the puck, taking hits, scoring goals. I mean, that's not easy. Like in a lot of other sports, you're like you need a shot, you can get one. In hockey, you might not. The
Also,
other team might not either.
let's not
This is.
let's not for,
the bounce of the puck. There's like a lot of things that can happen from
yeah,
game to
and
game.
let's not forget in basketball, people aren't body checking you when you're driving to the basket that much. I mean, of course, in the paint, people will like get up in your face a bit, but no one's actively like throwing their shoulder at you, trying to knock you to the ground. Otherwise, that'd be a flagrant in basketball.
Yeah,
But in hockey, that's just come on, get up. You took your hit. Get up and keep skating. You don't see that happen in basketball and whatever. So
yeah.
hockey wears down on you. It does.
I agree. Yeah, and I think momentum is a key factor here. I mean, the Panthers seem to have all the momentum. The Oilers with the 8-1 victory. Some people thought it might be a one-off, like the Mavericks, but I mean, they followed it with a very solid performance in Florida, 5-3 win. I mean, a much tougher game, but I mean, McDavid had a couple goals, empty netter, but also the one before that. I mean, the Oilers are just like a different team all of a
Yeah, I
sudden. I
mean
feel like they have the momentum to take back to Canada. I have a good feeling they're winning Game 6. Now, Game
yeah,
7, I feel like that can go either way.
yeah,
But
but like the thing is,
yeah,
Edmonton slowly started to build up their momentum at the end of Game 3. Like they were down big. They were down big after the abysmal second period where they let the Panthers score 3 goals. They're slowly chipping back. They were figuring out ways of how to beat the Panthers defense, and they were able to slowly bring the game back. I mean, of course, they still lost, but still, they rallied down from 4-1 and made it 4-3 within the final seconds of the game. So that showed me that they're able to figure out the Panthers defense to some degree, and they understood like how to cover like certain assignments. So they're able to carry that momentum over to Game 4. Whereas like the difference is like, for example, the 04 Red Sox Yankees series, there was no momentum after Game 3 because the Red Sox got murdered. It was 19-8, I believe. Like, I mean, sure, the Red Sox had taken a couple leads in that game, but it's 19-8. Like, how are you supposed to rally from that? But the Red Sox were able to steal Game 4 with Dave Roberts stealing the bag off of Mariano Rivera. They tie it. Ortiz walks off. They go to Game 5. Took it one game at a time, and now they're here. Well, well, now they're here. Well, they did the improbable in winning the championship, first time in 86 years in 2004. So it's similar in that you have to take a game by game approach. You obviously shouldn't look at it as we got to win 4 games in a row, even though
yeah,
obviously you need to do that. You need to focus on the micro measures of chipping in, and figuring out how to exploit certain defenses and everything like that. Because the one thing that goes against the Panthers is that their defensive core is a little bit over aggressive, where they stay so much with the Oilers when the forwards are carrying the puck, that like they're pressing on one side or the other, that they don't realize that they're letting the other gap like circle around the other way. So that's how the Oilers are able to like. That's one way the Oilers have been able to like exploit the Panthers defense.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, just taking opportunities and yeah. The Oilers, they could just kind of just like, well, obviously McDavid could kind of just dribble through people and score goals, but I mean, yeah, they could definitely, they're definitely able to kind of manipulate the Panthers defense and just able to find the net. And I feel like the Panthers kind of they're more like they stay in the zone and they kind of keep creating chances for themselves. So it's two different approaches to the same game. I guess it's a little bit of a stylistic contrast, but yeah, no, I definitely see what you're saying. I do think, like I said, I think Edmonton's gonna win Game 6, and then with the home crowd, and I feel like they have the momentum now, so I feel like they have a good chance. Game 7, like it can go either way. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's just hard for me to see the whole thing come to fruition. And since you already picked Edmonton, I'm gonna be contrarian and go with Florida in 7. But I don't know. The weird part is like when these things happen, you're like, I guess it's like the comeback should, in theory, happen when you're down, when you come back from 3-0. But then we saw what happened in Game 7 with Miami, or, like even,
That's because Tatum
that's
got his ankle sprained in 10 seconds into the game.
yeah,
If
I
that's
know
a,
this is a
if that
different.
if
This
that
is a
didn't
different beast.
no,
Yeah.
if that didn't happen, Boston would have absolutely stolen Game 7. I mean, would they have beaten the Nuggets in the finals? I don't know, but they would have absolutely beaten Game 7 if Tatum didn't sprain his ankle within the first 10 seconds of the game. Here in hockey, people, you don't care if you got a broken rib, if
You
you're
just keep playing.
if yeah, or if your knee's like ready to fall out of your leg, dude, you're still playing. I mean, in basketball, you can't play with a broken wrist. In hockey, they don't care if the wrist is broken. They're playing. It's a Stanley Cup. You only get one shot at this thing for most people. I mean,
That's true.
not in Corey Perry's instance. He's gotten what? He's had 4 appearances in the Stanley Cup in the last 5 years. 2020 with Dallas, 21 with Montreal, 22 with Tampa Bay, and now 24 here at the Oilers. He's created his own dynasty of getting to the Stanley Cup. I mean, of course, he's had his own three-peat of being the first dude to lose 3 straight Stanley Cup Finals with 3 different teams. But I mean, I can't exactly say I'm rooting for Corey Perry in this series because I've never really liked him. But I guess since he's with McDavid and Draisaitl and Nugent Hopkins, I guess I can kind of root for Corey Perry, especially if he's being an annoying worm for the Panthers because he's played that role before when he's with Tampa Bay, and his job was to annoy the Panthers. So I guess that works.
Yeah, that's true. Like I said, it's just like, yeah, it could definitely happen in hockey because, like, once you get the momentum, you get the momentum. Just being a little contrarian, I guess, but also it just takes one game for all of that to go away. Like, I think we're having the same thoughts with Carolina against the Rangers, and then, it just all ended as soon as it
I
started.
I
I feel
I
like there's a
thought
good
the
chance.
I thought the Hurricanes were going to force Game 7.
Me
I thought
too.
they were.
So that's why, like, I'm hesitant because, like, we might be thinking this, and then Florida could just go shut everyone up
I
in
mean,
Game 6. You know what
there's
I mean?
one
And then it'll be disappointing. So
there's one difference though.
I just don't want to get my hopes up too much. Even though I'm not really rooting for one team over the other, I do at this point want to see a Game 7. I just don't want to get my hopes up. Like, oh yeah, it's definitely gonna happen. Then Game 6 comes and goes, and then Florida like shuts them down because. Just like the Oilers flipped the switch, I mean, Panthers could very well do the same thing. And, in hockey, like, it's a bounce with the puck, like things could happen, right? So that's all I'm
Yeah.
saying. Do I think Game 7 will happen, though? Yeah, I think the Oilers are at least going to force Game 7, make this really interesting.
I still want to see an OT battle to the death for Game 7. I would
That would be
love to
insane.
see.
That's never happened before either. So
I don't think it's ever happened in the Stanley Cup Finals. A Game
yeah,
7 battle to the death in OT. I don't think it's ever. It's come close at certain times though. Like it's come close, but it's never been there. But hey, there's in a league that's over. It's hard to believe in a league that's nearly 120 years old. There's still more history to be made, and you could very well be part of that. Like, there's a lot of appeal that goes in there. I mean, like for example, like basketball, there's no longer like a first dude to score 50, first dude to score 70, 80 points, whatever. Because guys have already done that. You can't be the first dude that's had like 20 blocks in a game because that's already been done.
yeah.
You can't be the first guy that's had like 5 million assists in a game. Well, actually, you could because that's never happened just yet. But still, basketball, like even though it's 80, yeah, basketball is around 80, 90 years old, whatever it is. Well, NBA basketball, I should say. And nearly everything, I can't say nearly everything's been done, but the chances of you etching your name into history in a unique ability, it's rare. Like unless if you like ESPN will just randomly say like player A is the first guy specifically to have a 44 point, 12 assist, and 19 rebound game in NBA history. Okay, yeah, because that's so oddly specific. But in hockey, and think about it, Mark Stone set Stanley Cup Finals history for being the first guy in a century to have a hat trick in a game clincher in the Stanley Cup Finals. think about it. In a league that's over 100 years old, over 100, there's still more history to be made. Like, that's the appeal of it. Like, baseball's over 100 years old, football's over 100 years old, and there's still lots of things that can be achieved. Yeah, in a distinct record basis, but on an individual act, on like in terms of individual accolades, hockey is probably where you can really make your name, where you can really chisel your name into the cup, where it matters most. And that's why I think like playoff hockey, there's nothing that feels like it. It's it's the greatest playoff thing. It's the greatest playoff event in sports, without any doubt. And I'm talking about on the world scale. I'm not even talking about the United States.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. There's something like the like energy, enthusiasm, like effort, of playoff hockey. I mean, it's been much more entertaining, in my opinion, than basketball even. And of course, the trophy, like the Stanley Cup, lifting that, like the way they do that, that's so much better than the trophy presentations in a lot of the other sports. Just seeing them, every member get to take a turn with the cup and circle it on the ice, and the players getting to touch it first before the owners. Like I think that's a big, like yeah, seeing the players get to hoist the cup and skate around with it is obviously really, really cool. And yeah, hopefully that happens soon, but we'll see. I mean, we got a maximum of two more games. Hopefully it does go to two more games. I'd really like to see game seven in this series too. And I feel like it's much more possible and much, I think it's there's a very good chance of at least forcing game seven. Then I feel like game seven is basically a coin flip if it gets to that one, although the Oilers probably would have the momentum, you'd think. But I feel like on home ice, like I feel like Panthers could get up for one more game. But yeah, I mean that's the fun of it. You just don't know. I mean, it could go either way in a game seven. But I guess speaking of hockey news, it is Jacob Markstrom's traded to the Devils
Yeah,
yesterday. So
yeah. I mean, for Kevin Ball and
right,
a
yeah,
25 first,
it's a steal.
uh,
Well,
I don't
I
know
mean,
about this.
not really.
No, no, no. I don't know about a steal. Markstrom is 34, has 2 years left on his contract. And he's been fairly inconsistent over the past couple of years. I don't exactly know what to make of this trade for. Um, I mean, for yeah, I don't really know what to make of this trade for the Devils. I mean, sure, you have you have more consistent goaltending, and that's arguably your biggest letdown, aside from you know, everyone on the team getting injured in the regular season. So yeah, there's some change, and now you got a new coach in Sheldon Keefe. I mean, Keefe's a good coach, but of course, like when you're at Toronto, that doesn't matter because the team itself is a perpetual hamster wheel of failure in April. So I think Keefe uh, should work well, maybe, but it'll like the Devils getting back to the playoffs will hinge pretty much on Markstrom not being a Jekyll and Hyde goaltender. But I will say this trade is certainly better than whatever the hell Washington did yesterday. You traded for Pierre Luc Dubois? What? And you gave up Darcy Kemper? Like, it doesn't even matter. Like, Pierre Luc Dubois could have been traded for, I don't know. He could have been traded for an empty water bottle, and the LA Kings still would have won that deal. Well, still would have won that trade. First of all, Pierre Luc Dubois was awful this season, awful in the playoffs, and he had signed a year before an 8-year extension with the Kings, and he got traded away after a year. Why do you think that's so, Washington? Because he sucks. And then Darcy Kemper, he was he played a formidable role in getting the Avs to their cup, getting the Avs to their cup in 22. So the Kings, their probably biggest problem has been a lack of consistent goaltending since they decided to ditch Jonathan Quick. I mean, Jonathan Quick has seemingly revived himself with the Rangers, and he's gotten the most wins by an American goaltender. So it seems like maybe there would have been a big miss on the Kings right there, maybe. But I still said as of last year when they traded for Pierre-Luc Dubois. I'm talking about the Kings here. They traded for the wrong Winnipeg Jet. They should have instead traded for Connor Hellebuck, or at least offered out more to take Hellebuck. Hellebuck is one of the best goaltenders in the league, although he certainly didn't look like it in the first round against Colorado. But hey, it's Colorado. Their offense is a dynamite stick waiting to explode. So yeah, so without a doubt, the Kings won this trade. I don't know what Washington is thinking here. I mean, Ovi is slowing down. He's getting older. His scoring has considerably dropped off compared to what Ovi has been able to do in his past. And your solution is to bring in Pierre-Luc Dubois. I don't know what the Capitals are thinking. I genuinely don't know.
Right. Yeah, that's a very bizarre trade for sure. Don't really get that one too much, but yeah. I mean, Markstrom deal is certainly an interesting one for sure. For the Devils.
There's potential. I don't know. I mean, I think there's more downside potential personally, but I'm not saying that there is an upside potential. But I don't really like this trade for the Devils because Markstrom is a fairly old goaltender and has been inconsistent. Like that's why I mean, yeah, I mean, but then again,
Yeah,
the
that's fair.
the goaltender market is really small. But and Calgary over the last couple of years has finally submitted to a rebuild, so I guess it makes sense. But are the Devils true Stanley Cup contenders? Not really. They need to do a lot more and get a lot more to be true Stanley Cup contenders. I mean, this is the Devils going into this season. It's very different from them going into the 23 postseason where they were they're the surprise of the NHL and they just they outlast the Rangers before getting their butts whooped by Carolina in the second
Right.
round. But like, and we're all saying like, oh, potential Stanley Cup contender the next year, and
Damn.
that
Yeah.
that fell very short because one, Vitek Vanacek is not your best solution for the guy in net, and two, because everyone on the Devils got injured.
Yeah.
So this, in theory, solves one of the Devils' problems. Should they be playoff contenders going into next year? Yes, absolutely. Will they reach? Will they reach like? Will they reach up to the potentials? Remains to be seen.
Right. Yeah. And then of course, yeah. So I guess he'll be joining Jake Allen, from the Sharks, or as the goalie duo, but he'll probably be the primary
Well,
option.
and speaking of the Sharks, they got Barclay Goodrow
Yeah, I saw
off
that.
off the Rangers waivers,
That was
and
surprising.
they trade for Ty Dellandrea. So, I mean, the Sharks are welcoming back an old friend in Barclay Goodrow. I mean, I think this might be a decent strategy because they're getting a veteran presence back, but two, maybe they can flip him to a playoff contender during the trade deadline next year, recoup some more draft capital, and commit to the rebuild even more for the Sharks for the next couple of years. So that's what I think could potentially be the Sharks' plans, but I don't know for sure. But I think for a team as youthful as the Sharks are last year, having a veteran presence alongside Logan Couture, that's a pretty darn good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, he was, yeah, obviously had a big impact later on in that Rangers playoff run. So yeah, it was definitely a little bit surprising to see him go off the waivers. Good move for the Sharks there as they try to rebuild their roster. But they have the one pick right in the draft too. So
Yeah, they're probably going to take Macklin Celebrini.
yeah, yeah. So they'll definitely be rebuilding. But I guess yeah. Just to finish off with the Cricket World Cup, we talked about previewing the Super 8. I mean, I know it's already underway, but yeah. I mean, it's exciting cricket for sure. I mean, the U.S. fell to South Africa yesterday, but
I,
they've
I
really,
I can't be mad at the game. I
yeah,
can't be mad.
me neither. they played a good game, but they
And
unfortunately they fell short.
did you see West Indies versus England yesterday?
I was
My
watching last
my
night.
God, what a match!
Yeah, Phil Salt at the end, like that over where he had like all boundaries. Like I thought West Indies had a good chance putting 180
Yeah,
on the board, and then England was a bit behind. Then Phil Salt just kept knocking boundaries, and they cruised to kind of they cruised to victory. They still had like 15 balls left they're in the 17th over. Big performance there by Phil Salt, I guess, continuing his IPL form, and then from the Knight Riders, and then South Africa and the U.S. That was a good game. I mean, South Africa putting up 194 is a tough total. Quentin de Kock and Markram, Klaassen, they all kind of got going. De Kock with 74. And then the U.S. like they fell a bit behind, to be honest. But Andres Goose had a great performance against, I guess, his
and
old country with
and
80.
the one over where we let South Africa get like 20 like 28 runs or something like that.
Yeah,
That, not exactly our finest bowling performance.
yeah. Yeah, I guess Jasdeep Singh definitely wasn't his greatest performance, but the U.S. like really climbed back into it. What they did, they just kept hitting boundaries and boundaries, and then he also slowed us down again with the two. I think only getting 2 runs off the next over. Rabida really slowed down the United States. They were like hitting boundaries, really threatening to challenge South Africa's total, and then Kasigo Rabida, he really slowed things down for South Africa. Basically, I think he took a wicket and just close the deal. Basically, prevented boundaries from happening. But yeah, I mean South Africa's a good team, but I'm not disappointed. I mean for the U.S. to even be in the Super 8 and and play a pretty competitive performance against a top team like South Africa, I think that was pretty inspiring. West Indies England, that was a really good game too. For sure. I thought the West Indies had a good chance, but yeah, I mean Phil Salt really. I mean they, and then Johnny Bairstow. I mean they really got England, the win there, and I guess, and then India right now is playing excuse me, Afghanistan. So India put up a total of 181. Um, I think they have a pretty good chance of defending that one with Afghanistan sitting at 27 for 3, about 5 overs, and they lost a few wickets. So yeah, I mean, Boomer's already off to a great start too. 2 for 5, 2 wickets taken, 5 runs, and I guess just to make a finals prediction or a semifinals like knockout stage prediction. Group 1, I feel like it's going to be Australia and India, like probably two of the best teams in the world, honestly. And then Group 2, I think it's more of a mixed bag. I mean, not that Afghanistan and Bangladesh can't compete, but I feel like Australia and India are just a step above, and we've seen it in this tournament, like the way Australia's won every match, even against tough teams like England, Scotland, and then India's also won all their matches as well. And I think they did a good job against Afghanistan so far. So they're definitely able to keep it up against tougher competition. I'm excited to see Australia versus India. That's going to be a good one. And then in the Group B or Group 2, I think England really made a statement with a big win. I thought the West Indies would probably win that one, being at home. And they had a good performance. I think England's definitely for real. They snuck into the Super 8. They needed, a win against Namibia in a rain shortened format. They needed Australia to beat Scotland and knock them out, but they're really taking advantage. I think England's going to make a statement. I think they're for real. I think the second spot probably going to come down to South Africa versus West Indies. It's a tough one to predict, honestly, but because South Africa's not really known for. Well, I mean they're a pretty good team, but they don't really finish the deal so well. But then West Indies also is also a good team. I don't know. I feel like the winner of that match probably gets the second spot. So because I think both teams
Probably.
are on a similar caliber level. Yeah. I don't know who would be favored in that one, but yeah, it would depend. I think England probably has one spot now, if they continue to keep it up. And then winner of South Africa, West Indies probably gets the other one, assuming they both beat the United States. Well, yeah, so I mean that's probably how that's gonna go, but it's really exciting. I'm enjoying all the cricket. The times are really optimal, honestly, like early, like in the morning and at night. Kind of plan your day around that. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much all we got time for today. It's been a great episode. I guess that puts a bow on the NBA season with the Celtics winning. So, our coverage for that is done for the season. Although I'm sure we'll talk about off-season trades and stuff like that. NBA free agency is always a fun one, but yeah, NBA finals are a wrap. Stanley Cup Finals, we got one or two more exciting games to determine who's going to win that trophy, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how that series progresses. And of course, the Cricket World Cup, they're going to take center stage, especially when the Stanley Cup Final ends. Can't wait to watch and cover the knockout stage and the second group stage into the final. And then, of course, the Olympics coming up. We got Copa America and the Euros. A lot of soccer is going on. So just like a lot of sports in general, Wimbledon's going to come up soon as well. So in the meantime, this has been another episode of Sports Vibe. I'm Arnav for Jitesh, and we will see you next time.